Hello, welcome to Fast Pass University, the only place where you can learn all your insurance exam content free, state by state. No paywalls, no giant courses you're forced to buy, just clear lessons that help you pass fast. Today, we are going to go over Arizona insurance laws and regulations for the insurance exam, and these are common to all lines. What does that mean? That this section is covered on any insurance exam you're taking in Arizona, whether it's life and health or property and casualty, personal lines, commercial lines. Um, any exam is going to have the state laws and regulations section, right? The state laws and regulations are one of the most difficult sections, one of the most confusing, and definitely one of the most boring. So, we're going to help you get through that. We're going to help you know what to focus on, what you need to know, what the exam loves, so that you can breeze through your regulation sections. This is a part one video. As I said, this is common to all lines. You'll want to make sure that you check out part two, and I will link those videos in the description. So if you are taking property and casualty, you'll want to go watch the property and casualty specific state laws and regulations. It's basically part two of all of the regulations you're going to be tested on. Same for life and health. There'll be a separate part two for those taking the life and health exam. So just make sure that you check out your part two so that you have regulations just completely down. Again, those will be linked in the description. So let's dive in. Section 1, Director of Insurance, AZDOI Authority. AZDOI means Arizona Department of Insurance. And the person that is the head of the Arizona Department of Insurance is called the director in your state. Okay. Certain states will call them something different, superintendent, commissioner, things like that. Yours is called the director of insurance. The Arizona Department of Insurance and Financial Institutions, DIFI, so Department of Insurance and Financial Institutions, oversees insurance practices in Arizona. The director is the one that is at the top of that leads that heads that department, and they are appointed by the governor. Okay. They can simply ask you, what is the name of the head of the Department of Insurance or the DIFI? And the answer could simply be the director, or it could be how does the director come into place? How do they get to that job? Certain places they are elected, other places they are appointed, and in Arizona they are appointed. So, director and appointed by governor. Those are two possible exam questions right there. All right, so the appointment of the director. They are appointed by the governor and they have general authority to enforce insurance laws and adopt rules. So we're going to go over what those specific powers and duties of the director are. They investigate claims and complaints, monitor transactions of all companies, including domestic, foreign, and alien insurers. We're going to go over those. And then they audit domestic insurers every 3 years. We are going to dive deeper into these duties, but just kind of doing that overlook at this right now. All right. Examination authority. They audit books and records of domestic insurers. Domestic insurers just means insurers that are in the state of Arizona. Okay. And remember when we were talking about insurers, when it ends in an ER, that's insurance companies. All right. If we were talking about insureds, it ends in an ED, that is the customer. I like to think of it as Ed is insured. Ed is the individual. That always helped me remember the differences. Okay. So they're going to audit the books and records of domestic insurers, right? Just insurance companies that are in the state of Arizona at least once every 3 years. And they also audit producers as frequently as necessary. Now, they do need to audit and examine books and records of every insurance company in Arizona, every domestic insurer, at least once every 3 years. That could be an exam question right there. But they can also do it as frequently as they want to for both producers and insurance companies, right? So if they think something's going on or if they've received a complaint, they're able to investigate as they please. And then they can also enforce certain actions, okay? They can suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew licenses for a maximum of 12 months for violations including fraud, false information, or noncompliance. Now, if it was revoked, that can be beyond 12 months, um, but suspension is at a maximum of 12 months. Key limitation: the director does not have authority to arrest, issue injunctions, or sentence jail time. What they can do is if something was a criminal, if it was a criminal charge like fraud, things like that, they would report it to the appropriate authorities that could then arrest or impose jail times. Okay. So, going a little bit further into the key duties and the roles of the director, they enforce laws, rules, and adopt regulations, right? They audit domestic insurers at least once every 3 years and examine producers. They investigate claims and monitor all insurance companies. And then they suspend, revoke licenses. They also issue licenses. So when you pass your exam, as you will, um, it is the director that issues your license. They can also, or they do also, approve or deny rates and forms. Okay. So they can approve or deny insurance rates or policy forms. The one we want to focus on here is rates, though. Okay. So an insurance company cannot just increase their rates anytime they want as they wish. They need to actually submit for them. So they need to submit for a rate increase or a rate change or a policy form change. And then the director will either approve or deny. But what they do not do, they do not set rates. Okay. And they like to ask that one. They like to say the director of insurance can do all of the following except, and they'll list a bunch of these things, and then they'll put set insurance rates. They do not set them, they just approve or deny them. All right. So we are going to go over a couple insurance definitions that are pertinent to the regulations and laws section. Some of these should be recap for you from other lessons and sections, whether you're watching your videos online or have a course, etc. But we're going to go over them. I do always recommend that the regulations and laws section is the last thing that you study. You're going to be studying it now throughout. Arizona does put these laws and regulations kind of throughout their reading. So you want to make sure you take note of it. Anything that is specific to the state of Arizona, they're going to like to ask about, right? Because those are their own rules and laws. All of the other, general insurance content is the same across the board for all 50 states, but each state has the right to kind of make up their own laws and rules and regulations to an extent, obviously. And of course, the state that you're in is going to want you to know those, right? But I would make it through all of your insurance content and then circle back and focus on the rules and regulations. It really helps when you have a solid understanding of policies and just how insurance works in general before diving into the laws and regulations. All right, so insurance, where it doesn't necessarily have this here, but you should know the definition of insurance is the transfer of risk. Right, you're transferring your risk to the insurance company. It is also a legal contract. It is a contract whereby one undertakes to indemnify another against loss, damage, or liability arising from a contingent or unknown event. Sudden, unforeseen events. That's what insurance is there for. And indemnify is to bring the person back to whole. You are never meant to profit from insurance, right? If you were to, crash your car and it gets totaled out and it's a 20-year-old, Toyota, insurance is not going to replace it with a brand new Cadillac. They're going to replace it with something of like value or pay out what the value of that vehicle was. If your home burns down, they're going to, put you in the position to rebuild a home or purchase a home that is, of similar value, things like that. In life insurance, while they cannot, bring somebody back to life, obviously, what they are trying to do is replace the income that that person provided, maybe pay off the mortgage and such. So that is what it is to indemnify. It is to bring back to whole, bring back to where the person was before the loss. Before the loss. All right. And insurer, remember if it ends in ER, that is the insurance company. They must be authorized by the DIFI to conduct business in Arizona. And we will go over admitted and authorized here in a couple boxes. So producer equals agent, right? An insurance agent, insurance producer. It is a licensed person who sells, negotiates, or affects insurance contracts and receives compensation. Um, sells, solicits, and affects insurance is basically sells, right? So sells, solicits, negotiates. And those three words, so anybody that is soliciting, negotiating, or selling insurance, it is considered transacting. Transacting insurance or to transact insurance, okay? So transacting insurance or being in the position to transact insurance, you must be licensed. And what is transacting insurance? It is soliciting, negotiating, or selling or affects insurance contracts and receives a compensation. All right, so make sure you are comfortable with those terms. Now, domestic, foreign, and alien. Domestic is incorporated in Arizona. So when we were talking back to the director, it just kept saying how they manage and examine domestic insurers. It means insurance companies incorporated in Arizona. If the test question asks you, a company that is incorporated in Arizona is which type of insurer? They are domestic. Okay, so it's in the same state. Now, for example, moving on to the next one for foreign, that's anything outside of Arizona, anything in another U.S. state. So, Allstate is headquartered in Illinois. Like they were founded in Illinois, they're incorporated in Illinois, but there are Allstate agencies all over the country, right? So, an Allstate insurance company in Arizona would be a foreign insurer. Okay. So anything in another state. If you see two states in the question, this is your answer. Now, you do not need to know where every insurance company is incorporated. They will clearly say two different states in there. They will say XYZ company was founded or is incorporated in Michigan, but they are transacting insurance in Arizona. What type of insurer are they? Foreign. Okay. Generally, when we hear the word foreign, we think outside of the United States, but when it comes to insurance, it just means outside of the state that you are in. An alien would be anything incorporated outside of the United States. So be comfortable with these three terms. They love to ask a question on that. Okay, admitted versus non-admitted. Right, this is going to go back to when I said when we were talking about authorized. So, admitted versus non-admitted. Admitted and authorized go hand in hand. They are interchangeable. And non-admitted is the same as unauthorized. Okay. So in order to be admitted to transact insurance in the state of Arizona, you must be licensed by the DIFI to do business in Arizona. If you are admitted, you are authorized. If you are authorized, you are admitted. They could ask you as simple as that. If an insurance company is authorized to transact business in the state of Arizona, what are they also considered? Admitted. Okay. Or if a company is non-admitted, what are they also considered? Unauthorized. And in order to be admitted or authorized, you must have a certificate of authority. Okay. Certificate of authority. The certificate of authority is what makes you allowed to transact business in the state, or what makes a company, sorry. It's what makes an insurer authorized or admitted to transact insurance in that state. So I like to think of the certificate of authority as a ticket to transact. So you need your ticket to transact insurance. And what is that called? The certificate of authority. If you have a certificate of authority, if an insurance company has a certificate of authority, what are they considered? They are considered admitted or authorized. If an insurance company does not have a certificate of authority, they are not authorized to transact insurance in the state of Arizona. What are they considered? Non-admitted or unauthorized. Okay. Now, the only time we would see that is with surplus lines insurers. They could say who is not required to have a certificate of authority but can still transact insurance in the state. It would be surplus lines insurers. They do not need or have a certificate of authority. We're not going to dive too deeply into this. You just need to know they're just going to say surplus lines, right? You should have learned about this more in your other insurance lessons, but a surplus lines insurer is just um, an insurance company that covers very unique risks that there may not be a gigantic market for, but if there is a need to write that business in the state, there are certain surplus lines insurers that are able to do so. They are registered with the state. You can't just say, oh, I'm a surplus lines insurer. I don't need a certificate of authority. Here's all this insurance to buy for me. No, they are still registered with the state as a surplus lines insurer, and they are allowed to then write some of these unique risks. Okay. Going back to transacting insurance. So just circling back to transacting insurance is any activity that includes solicitation, negotiation, execution of contracts, and post-execution transactions. Okay, so you either, as an individual, you need a license, and as a company, you need a certificate of authority. They sometimes like to ask, what does an insurance company have once they are admitted or authorized? And they'll try to throw you off with some other words like, say, certificate of insurance or license. Remember, when we're talking about a company and we're talking about what makes them admitted or authorized, it is a certificate of authority. And enable as an individual to do solicitation, negotiation, execution of contracts, basically selling. So selling, soliciting, or negotiating. and post-execution transactions, you must be licensed, okay? So even to add or remove a car off a policy or change a beneficiary in a policy, things like that, you must be licensed. All right. They like to ask questions about somebody that's just doing clerical work at the desk. Do they need to be licensed? It depends on what they're doing. They'll make it very clear that it is just clerical and they're not giving any advice. They're not negotiating anything. They're not making any changes to the policy, is the only situation where they would not need to be licensed. Most often, you're going to see that the majority of insurance agencies just kind of want everybody licensed because they're very limited when you are not. And then just one more tidbit to know here: no license equals no commission. Okay. So if they tell you, Susie at the front desk just does clerical work, doesn't do anything to the policies, but she brought her sister in to get a policy. The agent shared commissions with her. Is that allowed? No, not at all. No license, no commission. All right. Hello, welcome to Fast Pass University, the only place where you can learn all your insurance exam content free, state by state. No paywalls, no giant courses you're forced to buy, just clear lessons that help you pass fast. Moving on to licensing requirements, okay? This is probably the second most important slide in this presentation. That goes right there with unfair trade practices. And the reason why I say that is there is a chance for multiple questions from this slide. So, as long as you can remember these couple numbers and timelines, etc., you're in a good spot, and chances are you will see a couple questions from this. All right. So, in order to get your license in the state of Arizona, you must be at least 18 years old. And there are no education requirements, okay? So you don't need to have an associate's degree or a college degree or a high school diploma. You just need to be 18 years old. Um, you need to be a resident of Arizona to get that initial home state Arizona license. They do have non-resident licenses, which we'll talk about in a second. And there is no pre-licensing education requirement, but you do have to do a background check and fingerprinting, okay? So they could ask a question of, in order to get your license in the state of Arizona, you must be all of the following except, and maybe they'll list some of these and then put something like 17 years old, or must have a college degree, or must complete a pre-licensing education course. No, right? But you do need to live in the state of Arizona, be 18 years old, and provide your fingerprints, okay? And then there are some fees to run that. Usually you will get this done at the testing center. For more information, just check out the Arizona Department of Insurance website to make sure, or with the testing facility before you go, or how you complete that if you are taking the exam remotely. Okay. So, going back though to number 2, types of licenses. There are resident and non-resident license available. Non-residents are exempt from pre-licensing examination if Arizona offers the same license held in the resident state. So, if you are moving to Arizona, you would first file for your non-resident license if you are licensed in another state. So let's say you're from Michigan and you have your insurance license and you're moving to Arizona. You would need to establish a resident license there eventually, but in order to maybe transact business right away, you could apply for a non-resident license. They're going to look, see that you are licensed somewhere else already, and they're going to continue that as reciprocity and allow you to come get your license there as well. If you are leaving the state of Arizona to go move somewhere else, then you would switch that license to a non-resident license, okay? Or if you are in Arizona and you need to sell policies in other states, it is very common for people to have insurance licenses in multiple states. So just know the difference of those two terms. There is no pre-licensing education required. What that means is anybody could walk in as long as they are 18 years old and go take this exam. I don't recommend that. This is not common knowledge. This is something you do need to study. So however you are studying that, whether it's, watching videos online, on YouTube, getting a course, you can do so at your own will, right? There are certain states that require people to actually take a state certified course or to actually sit in a live classroom for a certain amount of hours or sit on front of their computer and it actually tracks every second that they are on the screen. Arizona does not have those limitations. You can learn this how you want to and go take the exam. As I said, though, it is always recommended. So whether you're here hanging out with us watching our videos or you want to go get a course, we do have some available on our website as well where you'll get 10% off with WebCE. So just go check those out. But just know that there are no PLE requirements for Arizona. However, there is, and this is a unique Arizona rule, a maximum of 4 attempts within 12 months to pass the exam. If somebody fails the exam 4 times, they must wait 1 year before retesting, and they love this question. You also should know this, okay? Don't take the exam before you feel confident. Don't wait forever either. It's going to be easier than you think. I mean, they are challenging, but don't overthink it. Don't feel like you need to know this inside and out. I don't think I even understood what anything was when I passed the exam. I just kind of it was just so new, right? I knew some of the terms. I knew this. I knew how to answer the questions until I got out there in the real world working in insurance. Then it all started to piece together and make sense. So, sit down for the exam, don't overthink it, but be aware of the fact that if you were to fail the exam 4 times within a 12-month period, you're going to have to wait 1 more year before you can retest. So slow down in between testing if you did not get a pass on that first try. Right. And then, of course, you do need to go through fingerprinting and a background check. And that's going to vary based on what they'll allow and not allow, or why they would issue a license, not issue a license. Usually it's going to be really if there was only things that were involving money or insurance or fraud in somebody's background that could hold up their license. It's going to vary on an individual basis. All right. And license renew every 4 years on the last day of the birth month. So your license is good for 4 years once you pass, and it'll expire on the last day of your birth month. Okay, so there is a chance where it, you know, goes a little bit over 4 years, a little bit under, just kind of depending on when you got licensed compared to when your birthday is. But if your birthday is August 6th, your license is going to renew on August 31st every 4 years, okay? What's really great, though, is if you keep up with your renewals, you never, ever, ever have to sit through this exam again, all right? So let's get you that pass and make sure that you do your continuing education, which we'll talk about here in a second, and make sure that you renew on time every year so that you never, ever, ever have to sit for this exam again, right? So most states, the licenses are only good for 2 years. Arizona is one of the very unique ones with 4 years. So be careful if you're watching other videos where they're just giving you, kind of a general rule of thumb. They let you know to go check out your state specifics, that Arizona's licenses are good for 4 years. All right. You have 4 years before you need to renew. And when does it renew? On the last day of your birth month. So, continuing education requirements. What do you have to do within those 4 years? You must complete 48 hours of continuing education within those 4-year period. Arizona resident producers must complete 48 hours of continuing education every 4 years. The exam loves this. They want to make sure you know this. You also want to know this so you never have to sit down and take your exam again. As long as you keep up with your continuing education And submitting your renewals, again, you never have to sit for the exam again. Usually the companies you work for will have some type of partner that they work with, or places where they want you to go get your continuing education hours. But if not, you can go online to the Arizona Department of Insurance website and find some state approved continuing education courses. We also have them available with WebCE. So check those out on our website as well. Make sure that you get your continuing education hours in, but for the exam, just know how many they are. It is 48 hours every 4 years. 6 of those hours must be in ethics, okay? So it's actually kind of like 42 plus 6. So they could ask you, of the 48 hours of continuing education, how many hours must be included in ethics? And it is 6. So 6 of those 48 hours must be in ethics training. A lot of time, the courses that you're getting for these will have that all included for you. But just make sure that you are meeting the requirement and that you know the numbers. They're going to genuinely ask you the 48 hours, right? They're not going to ask you the 42 plus 6, but I just wanted you to know. Or they could branch it off further and say with 6 in ethics. And as we know, the renewal deadline is the last day of your birth month. So license expire on the last day of the licensee's birth month every 4 years. The other really important part of this slide, so actually that last slide and this slide are, two of the most important slides on here, as well as unfair trade practices, is reporting requirements. You must notify the department within 30 days of change of address, email, name, business principles, or criminal convictions. Within 30 days. You've got 30 days to let them know. You can actually get fines and penalties for not reporting changes of address, email, if you had a change of name because of, marriage or divorce, things like that. You have 30 days to get that information over, submit that online, or by paper, however you want to do it, to the Department of Insurance for Arizona. You also want to do this because they're going to send you reminders about your continuing education and when your renewal is. I hold my license in multiple states, and so the continuing education requirements vary. And also the timeline. Sometimes it's the end of the year. Sometimes it's the month that I was licensed in. Sometimes it's my birthday. So it's important for me to make sure that I'm getting those notifications. So I always make sure that I have my address and email on file so that they can get a hold of me and remind me, because I'm always trying to cram them in last minute. Don't do that. Get them done ahead of time. And also, you don't want to get fines and penalties. So make sure you report any changes within 30 days. Moving on to licensing requirements. Okay. This is probably the second. All right. This is the second most important part of the presentation: unfair trade practices. And the reason why I say this is the same reason why I said it for the licensing requirements, is that you can see multiple questions from this section. So, unfair trade practices, that also just means prohibited. Things that are not allowed, all right? Things you cannot do once you are licensed, as they can result in fines or penalties. So, Arizona Consumer Fraud Act prohibits deception, deceptive, or unfair practices, fraud, false promises, misrepresentation, or concealment of material facts in connection with insurance sales. You want to familiarize yourself with these terms, okay? Misrepresentation: any misleading or inaccurate information regarding the insurers that the producer represents. It is misleading or inaccurate information about both the agent or the insurer that misrepresents the policy or misrepresents themselves, right? This policy covers everything, or things like that. This is generally talking good falsely. So talking falsely um, and misrepresenting anything about yourself or the company you work for or the policy. Okay. The reason why I say that is that we also are going to discuss defamation, which should be a bullet point on here, but we're going to pretend that it is. Defamation is, any misleading or inaccurate information, but about another agent or insurer in a way that is harmful. So this is talking bad about someone else, talking smack. Misrepresentation is talking kind of good, but what you can do, as long as it's truthful, but you don't want to talk bad, even if it is truthful, about another agent or insurance company. That would be considered defamation. Okay, twisting. Twisting is also misrepresentation, but it is one where it persuades an insured to cancel, lapse, or switch policies to their detriment. So this is twisting somebody's arm and getting them to come buy a policy with you when it is not in their best interest. You can absolutely get customers from other agencies and other insurance companies. That's what everyone does, right? You want to earn the business of other customers, but you must do so in a moral and ethical and honest way. If you are saying, oh yeah, come to our policy, it's cheaper, but it's cheaper because, you take away a bunch of their coverage, or they don't have the same benefits, that would be twisting. Okay. So twisting is actually getting them to come purchase a policy with you, but to their detriment when it is not in their best interest. Rebating. Rebating is illegal. They also like to use the word induce, which it's basically bribe. A bribe, bribing, inducement. So it's giving back any part of commission or anything of significant value as an inducement to purchase the policy, bribing them, paying their first premium, offering them $100 to come switch their policy, things like that. That is called rebating. This is probably the most loved exam question. It's also one of the areas where agents find themselves in trouble. It's a real fine line. Okay. You absolutely can never, ever, ever pay any of their premium or share commissions, right? We can't share commissions if they're not licensed anyway, right? No license equals no commission. Okay. Or, hey, I'm going to make $400 if you come sign your auto policy with me. I'll split that with you. Absolutely not, right? Or I'll pay your first month premium, or they'll do something in the test question that you can tell is of high value. Because there is an instance where you can offer promotions up to $25. We'll come back to that. Okay. But in the question, if they don't actually give you a dollar amount, it's going to be something that's of high value. Floor seats to a basketball game or a sold out concert, or first month premium. Now, first month premium may be $8. I don't know what policy would be that, but even still, that would be considered rebating. Okay. But the question will clearly make it obvious that it is something of value if they don't give you the dollar amount. Now, even still, you cannot rebate to up to $25. You can never rebate. But there are situations where you can do like promotions. I actually owned an insurance agency in Arizona about a decade ago. And the company that I worked for actually nationwide gave out $10, not nationwide, that wasn't the company I worked for. I meant they ran a nationwide promotion, and they gave all of us agents a bunch of $10 Visa gift cards, and we were allowed to use them as a gift, as a thank you for referrals. So if somebody had a policy with us and they referred their friend or family member to come in and get a quote, or to call us and get a quote, we were able to give them a $10 gift card, regardless if they switched to us. It was just for the referral, just for the quote. It wasn't, hey, I'll give you this $10 gift card if you switch to me. It was regardless, right? Or sometimes agents will run promotions for existing customers for referrals, things like that. So that's that fine line. But in case you're like, I read you could rebate up to $25. No, you cannot rebate up to anything. Rebating is not allowed. You could not bribe them or exchange anything of value to get a policy with you. This $25 is promotional and like referral based. Okay. And coercion, applying physical or mental force or threat of force to persuade someone to transact insurance. Bullying. Can you imagine running your business by just threatening people to come buy their policies with you? Obviously not allowed, and that is called coercion. So please be familiar with these terms. Misrepresentation is any misleading or inaccurate information regarding the insurer or the insured, right? Saying that your policy does things that it doesn't, exaggerating benefits, saying that the company's in great standing when they're about to be bankrupt, okay? Defamation, talking, making misleading, inaccurate misrepresentations about another agent or insurance company with the intent to be harmful to their reputation or business. Twisting somebody's arm, persuading them to cancel, lapse, or switch their current policy to come to you at their detriment when it is not in their best interest. You can have a higher policy and somebody could still want to switch to you. That actually happens a lot. When I had my agency in Arizona, and we'd sit down and go over somebody's policy with them, they could say, you know what, I actually never needed that coverage. Thank you for telling me about it. Let's take that off. I want to switch to you. Or, all right, yes, I know it's a little bit more, but I'm more comfortable signing my policy up with you. Let's switch it. You just want to make sure you kind of have those things on record. So if you ever were to be questioned about twisting, you had everything on file. Plus, you need to keep all of your records on file anyway, right? For up to 3 years, because the Department of Insurance is going to come check records once every 3 years at minimum. Rebating, bribing, offering any part of commission or anything of significant value as an inducement to purchase a policy. Make sure you write the word inducement or induce in your flashcards or notes, because they do like to use that word in the exam. And then coercion, applying physical or mental force or a threat of a force to persuade someone to transact insurance with your company. All right, moving on to producer responsibilities. Okay. So some responsibilities you have as a producer, as an agent. Actually going to switch that marker back to purple because that red looks intimidating. And I want to save that for like the things that really need to pop out there. So agent is the same as producer, and that is you once you pass your exam. So as an agent, as a producer, you have a fiduciary duty. And I just like to think of fiduciary as financial duty, financial obligation, and because of the F in fiduciary and the F in financial. Your fiduciary duty is when you are handling premiums, right? The customer's money or the insurance company's money. When the insured, that's the individual, remember, ends in ED, Ed is insured, hands you over his premium payment, his policy premium, his policy money, It goes from being the insured's money and now needs to become the insurer's money. It now needs to go to the insurance company. You are the middleman. While you are the middleman, is that money yours? No, the money is never, ever the agent's. The money always belongs to the insurer or the insured. It is never the agent's money. And that money equals premium. Okay, so premium funds must be kept in a separate account and cannot be commingled with the producer's own funds. Okay, so your fiduciary duty as an agent is to handle that premium with fiduciary responsibility. And that responsibility, keeping it at a fiduciary capacity, is that you're going to handle that premium responsibly. You're going to handle those premium in a fiduciary capacity, which just means being honest and getting it where it belongs quickly, promptly. Okay. They must be properly accounted for and promptly remitted. Remitted just means getting the money to the insurance company, depositing to the insurer. So when you receive a premium payment from the customer, it must be kept in a separate account. Somebody cannot come in and pay their policy for the year and then you pay the internet bill, right? Can't do that. You can't just take your commission out. Let's say somebody brings in $1,000 check for their policy and you're going to get $250 commission. You can't just take that out. You need to remit it to the insurance company and then they will pay it back to you however they properly get you your commissions. Okay, so you cannot commingle it. They could say somebody comes in and makes a payment and then the agent purchases everybody lunch from that money. No, they cannot do that. That is commingling. Or even putting it in the same drawer. It needs to be separate. They also will say within, how quickly must the agent get that money to the insurance company? And the answer is promptly. Promptly is the timeline. There is not a specific state requirement here. The answer they're looking for is promptly. Now, the company you work for will generally have, whether it's a couple days or a certain hour timeline that you need to submit that money. Or they could give you a scenario question and say somebody came in and paid their premium at the end of the day on Friday. The agent was in a hurry. Went home for the weekend and the following week forgot about that payment. What was he in violation of? And that was not handling the premium responsibly. He was not doing things to his fiduciary capacity, and he was supposed to submit that money promptly. Okay. And trust accounts. Okay. So premium funds must be held in a separate trust account and not commingled with personal or business funds. All right. Generally, the insurance company you work for, they're going to have a whole system set up for this. So many things are done electronically these days, but insurance is one of those businesses, especially if you're in the property and casualty world, where people like to go into their local agent's office. We had to deposit money every night. At my insurance agency, we had to go and submit that money every single night to the bank. We had a special deposit slips. That money was never in our accounts. All right. And then full disclosure. Another part of your fiduciary responsibility is making sure that you are honest. You have full disclosure of all compensation arrangements and potential conflicts of interest to clients. Exam tip: commingling of premium funds with personal or business funds is strictly prohibited and can result in license revocation. Right? You do not want to do that. Do not want to mess with the insurance company's money. One thing that we did not discuss when it comes to violations and fines, and I want to make sure that we do, is the fines and penalties for unfair trade practices, or fiduciary responsibility, etc., or licenses, violations, things like that. The fines and penalties, they could ask this question. So for unintentional or not even willingly knowing, it is up to $250 per violation, capped at $2,500. Oops, not that. So even unintentionally violating something, it can be up to $250 per violation, capped at $2,500. And then intentional or willful acts are up to $2,500 per violation, with a max of $15,000. All right, so make sure that you are familiar and comfortable with those dollar amounts. All right, another one of the common tested sections of laws and regulations for Arizona is the Arizona Guarantee Fund. It was established in 1977 to protect Arizona residents for covered claims if licensed insurance companies that they were with became insolvent. And insolvent basically means bankrupt. So imagine you had your policy with a company and then you have a big claim, your house burns down, your car is totaled, things like that. And they go, oops, sorry, we're going bankrupt. We can't pay your claim, right? So the Arizona Guarantee Fund was established to protect policy holders, policy owners, residents in Arizona from these situations. They have limits though, right? So their limits are $300,000 or the policy limits, whichever is less. And each claim is subject to a $100 statutory deductible. So if you had a $500,000 home that burned down, the Insurance Guarantee Fund is going to step into a maximum of $300,000. They could give you a scenario question, but each claim is subject to a $100 statutory deductible. Unless they clearly define the deductible or talk about the deductible in the question, just think of the answer as $300,000. Same situation. Let's pretend the house is valued at $180,000. They're not going to get $300,000. They're going to get $180,000. So their policy limits up to $300,000, whichever is less. Now, again, in that situation, $500,000 home, they're only getting $300,000. Obviously unfortunate, but that's a whole lot better than getting zero because the company is going bankrupt. So for property and casualty, the limit is $300,000, right? So I should have said it there and clarified, which we'll go into it in more detail in our part 2 for property and casualty. For life and disability, it is $300,000 in life insurance death benefits, $100,000 in cash surrender values, and $250,000 in annuity benefits. We will go into more detail on those in the part 2 of these videos. How are they funded? They are funded through assessments levied against licensed member insurers based on amount of insurance they sell in Arizona. So all insurance companies in Arizona fund this to a percentage based on, their business size. For workers' compensation claims, however, there is no limit or no deductible. So the Arizona Guarantee Fund will also step in for workers' comp, and there is no limit and no deductible. All right, a nice little summary slide on the numbers that we went over. You may want to screenshot this, pause it, whatever you want to do. We also have our workbooks on our website at fastpassuniversity.co, that is .co, where we will have these for you. We also have a fill-in-the-blank workbook, so you can grab it there. But make sure that you are comfortable. If you're taking your own notes, have kind of a page like this where you can just kind of reference everything as you're going through, and to help you memorize these numbers and terms. So again, licensing and CE requirements. 48 hours of continuing education every 4 years, right? How long is an insurance license good for? In the state of Arizona, 4 years. That is your renewal period. That is how long a license is good for. 4 years. And within that time frame, you must complete 48 hours of continuing education. And how many of those hours must be in ethics? 6. How many exam attempts do you have per year? 4. And how long do you have to wait if you were to fail your exam 4 times within a year, which none of you will? You must wait another 12 months before attempting again. And you must be 18 years old to apply for an insurance license, to sit down for the exam, etc. You've got 30 days to report address change, name changes, criminal actions. 30 days to report. And when do your licenses renew after the 4 years? On the last day of your birth month in the 4th year. Okay. Guarantee fund limits, $300,000 for property and casualty and life death benefits, $250,000 for annuity benefits, $100 property and casualty deductible, and they cover up to $100,000 for life cash surrender policies. Again, remember, these are to come into place if an insurance company were to become insolvent, which basically means bankrupt. Fees and penalties, $20 fingerprinting fee, $22 FBI processing fee. Maximum license suspension is 12 months. And unintentional violations, it is $250 per act at a max of $2,500. And intentional or willful violations, $2,500 per act, and that maxes at $15,000. All right. Now, there were some other things we went over. Definitely make sure that you were, writing your notes, taking your flashcards, or grab one of our workbooks. But let's jump into the practice quiz questions. We'll go over the answers at the end, and then wrap up this video so you can get on to part 2, specific to which exam you're taking, whether that is property and casualty or life and health. All right, question number 1. How many hours of continuing education are required in Arizona every 4 years? 24 hours with 3 hours in ethics, 40 hours with 6 hours in ethics, 48 hours with 6 hours in ethics, or 60 hours with 8 hours of ethics. Number 2, when do Arizona insurance license expire? December 31st every 2 years, last day of birth month every 3 years, last day of birth month every 4 years, or anniversary of license issue date. Number 3, changes in address or name must be reported to the DIFI within 10, 15, 30, or 45 days. Number 4, the maximum property and casualty guarantee fund coverage is $250,000, $300,000, $500,000, or no limit. Number 5, who appoints the director of the DIFI? Arizona legislator, the governor, insurance commissioner, or insurance industry vote. Number 6, Arizona does not require which of the following for licensing? Fingerprinting, pre-licensing education, state examination, or application through NIPR. Number 7, maximum number of exam attempts allowed within 12 months. 2, 3, 4, or unlimited. Number 8, minimum age to obtain an Arizona insurance license. 16, 18, 21, or 25. Number 9, the property and casualty guarantee fund deductible per claim is $50, $100, $250, or $500. Number 10, which practice involves giving back part of commission as inducement? Twisting, churning, rebating, or misrepresentation? See how we did. Number 1, the correct answer was C, 48 hours with 6 hours of ethics. Number 2, C, last day of birth month every 4 years. Arizona licenses expire on the last day of the licensee's birth month every 4 years. Number 3 was 30 days, C. Licensed producers must notify DIFI within 30 days of address, name, or other changes. Number 4, B, $300,000. The Arizona Property and Casualty Guarantee Fund coverage is limited to $300,000 or policy limits, whichever is less. Number 5 is B, the governor. The director is appointed by the governor in Arizona. Number 6, B, pre-licensing education. Arizona does not require pre-licensing education. While it is recommended, it is not required. Number 7 is C, 4 attempts, maximum of 4 exam attempts within 12 months. After 4 failures, must wait 1 year. Number 8, B, 18 years old. Minimum age for an Arizona insurance license is 18 years old. Number 9, B, $100. Each property and casualty guarantee fund claim has a $100 statutory deductible. Number 10 was C, rebating. Rebating involves giving back part of commission or valuable consideration as inducement to purchase. All right. So make sure that you are comfortable with the information that we went over. These are the most loved questions on the exam. While you are going through your reading, you're going to see some other things. I'm not saying that there won't be any questions on those, but these are the most often used examples, the most testable information you want to be comfortable with. We will dive into the ones that are specific to your line of authority in part 2. So if you're taking property and casualty, check the link below, or life and health, check that link as well. Make sure to check out our website if you want to download our workbooks, or you want to book tutoring or join our community, which is school.com/FastPass University. Our website, fastpassuniversity.co, that is .co. And please make sure to like and subscribe. I am dropping this video first, the Arizona laws and regulations common to all lines. I will be dropping property and casualty and life and health over the next 2 days. So if you are watching this on the very first day that we dropped it, you may have to wait a day or two until I get those out there, but they will be out in the next day or two, I promise. Please make sure to like and subscribe so you get those notifications. It also does wonders for our channel. It means a lot to us so we can get our videos out there for more people preparing for the exam. And once we are done getting all of the state's laws and regulations content up, we will then be going over all insurance content on our YouTube channel, always free. We are the only place that is giving you everything you need to know for the insurance exams completely free. No paywalls, no expensive courses. The only time you'll see those is if you need a pre-licensing course, depending on what state you're in, which you guys don't in Arizona. We do have that partnership through WebCE. And then, of course, there are some paid resources like our tutoring or workbooks, but content will always be free. So please make sure to subscribe so you can watch all of our videos as they roll out. Thank you so much. I will see you in part 2.